go.
All right. Lysander Spooner University announces the Glacier Park Climate Skeptic Adventure Weekend, and that will be September 15th through the 17th, 2017. Science is skepticism. Join us in the lobby of the East Glacier Lodge in East Glacier, Montana between 8 and 9 o'clock Saturday morning, September 16th. It is free to the public. My name is Roger Roots. I'm a lawyer and a social scientist. I'm also the founder of Lysander Spooner University, the world's leader in critical climate change investigation and critical glaciology. I first became interested in glacier measurements when I viewed government websites which showed before and after pictures of certain glaciers in Glacier National Park. The government websites made it appear that the glaciers are melting away to nothing before our eyes. I then typed in the names of the same glaciers into Google Images, and it was very easy to find pictures that had been posted by people on vacation or tourists, for example, with their girlfriend in front of the same glacier, and you can easily find images of the same glaciers that are much larger in more recent years, meaning that the government's websites appear to be deceptive. They're showing glaciers as if they are constantly receding, when in fact what they're really doing is using manipulation of dates. Of course, anyone who lives in the mountains, especially in the western Rockies, knows that glaciers build up. They get larger every winter, then they melt for just 2 or 3 months in the summer down to their low point in mid-September or so. And if you take a picture of a glacier on a given date, let's say May 25th or something, it's obviously going to be much larger than the same picture the same glacier taken in, let's say, August 25th. So the government's actually engaging in this level of simplistic misdirection. By the way, this simple fact is evident to anyone who lives out here in Montana, but there might be people in Philadelphia or Florida or elsewhere in the world who are not aware of this basic fact. The glaciers are always melting from June until September every single year. So you can manipulate the viewing audience just by taking pictures and not informing the public of the specific calendar dates. Our federal government, folks, is doing this exact same thing, and I can show you that they do this on their websites. I should state for the record that I don't challenge the notion that the glaciers in Glacier National Park and elsewhere are gradually melting. They've been melting since the Little Ice Age, and they've been melting since before humans industrialized, before humans started to use fossil fuels. And this is a gradual natural process, probably has very little to do with petroleum or coal. I don't dispute that glaciers are gradually melting. I grew up in Montana, right over here in the crazy mountains, and you know, I was tromping around on glaciers from a very young age, and I can tell you those glaciers are still there. It's possible they're a little smaller now than they were in my childhood, but frankly it's not clear to me. So I've launched this initiative project with Lysander Spooner University to really study every single year. Our goal is to go up to Glacier National Park at the very low points every single year of the glaciers. You only get a picture of whether these glaciers are getting smaller or larger in mid-September. The average date of first freeze in East Glacier, Montana is September 13th. This year we're going to be there on September 16th. We're going to be going out and taking pictures from specific points on as many glaciers as we can, and we hope that we get as large of a group as we can on September 16th. An overarching theme among the climate change alarmists is that humans must give more power and money to governments, the very greatest threat to the environment that the world has ever known, to, quote, solve or fix the alleged problem of global warming. Alarmists have siphoned off many billions of dollars from governments around the world to promote their apocalyptic claims. Almost no major funding exists to review or challenge the alarmists' claims. Of course, if human-generated CO2 was really a problem, the private sector could fix it in a month. The private sector, if it was a problem, could probably create, 100,000 tinkerers, millions of people who would have drones that would go up in the skies and suck the CO2 out of the sky.
Like right on, John.
If it were a problem, the private sector could solve it in a month. But that isn't really what the government-funded climate alarmists want. They want socialism. In fact, most of the friends that I have that subscribe to the government's view couldn't care less about the science. What they want is the socialism that they think will follow from this worldwide hysteria about man-made global warming by carbon dioxide. Anyway, I've launched this research project in 2015. I've been going every year since then. This year, 2017, will be the 3rd annual trip to Glacier National Park in September. I also, of course, I have a $5,000 bet that there will still be glaciers on every single year of the year 2030. The government's official handouts, brochures, films, signs all over Glacier Park say openly that the glaciers are predicted to be gone by the year 2030. I have a $5,000 offer. Bet me. You put your money where your mouth is. Thus far, no one has taken me up on the bet. And let me say that we're actually having an impact. The government is visibly changing its websites, and I suspect they're changing its websites in response to some of my challenges and my criticisms. Most recently, by the way, the government's websites are retreating to claims that the glaciers will all be gone between the years 2030 and 2080. That's a new little attachment. They used to say by 2030 they were predicted. Now they're saying between 2030 and 2080. So we're visibly having an impact. It also appears that the government is moving to sort of change the definition of the word glacier. If you go to their current websites, which are now being put up in the last months or so, you go up to Glacier now, the people at the behind the counters, the rangers, will tell you that a glacier has to meet a specific government definition, at least 25 acres in size, at least 100 feet deep, and moving. And you know, I frequently point out that you can find maps. There are maps of Montana mountains, including all the mountains around us here. We're down in southern Montana, that have glaciers on them, that are named glaciers, that are on the maps. You know, Hidden Glacier, Granite Glacier, Skytop Glacier. These are probably smaller than 25 acres. They've been on these maps of Montana mountains for 100 years. And yet the government at Glacier National Park is now moving to change the definition, I think possibly in response to me, change the definition to say that a glacier has to be at least 25 acres in size. I could be wrong, but it seems like we're having an impact. They are noticing our challenge to them. A few words about the East Glacier Lodge. We're going to be meeting in the East Glacier Lodge the morning of Saturday, September 16th. This lodge is a beautiful lodge in East Glacier, Montana, just outside the park. It was actually built and established by the great James J. Hill, one of the greatest capitalists and entrepreneurs in American history. You can read about his great story of entrepreneurism in the book How Capitalism Saved America, and many other books, including a book that I often recommend called The Myth of the Robber Barons. James J. Hill was a railroad magnate who built the Great Northern Line across the High Line across Montana from actually Seattle all the way to Minnesota, across the High Line of the northern United States. He built it out of his own pocket with no government subsidies and no funding, while all the other transcontinental lines were built with government funding. They were mired in corruption, discrimination of all kinds, people being stolen, robbed. And of course that was government subsidized lines. All the lines, including down here at the Northern Pacific line, all the transcontinental lines other than the Great Northern were built with government money. They had cheap trestles, they were paid by the mile, so they were very poorly built. Whereas James J. Hill's Great Northern Line in northern Montana through Glacier Park was built absolutely strong and true with the private money from the private sector. We're going to meet there 8:30 in the morning. Saturday, September 16th. The night before in Kalispell, Montana, on the other side of the park, we have arranged to give a lecture at 5 o'clock at the Kalispell Public Library. And I sure hope that as many of you as possible can join me. And throughout Saturday and I hope Sunday, we are going to be tromping around the glaciers of Glacier National Park. It should be a great, fun weekend, and I certainly hope and invite all of you to join me. Thank you so much.